My name is Sascha Dutta. I'm the founder of Marketing Strategiser. I provide strategic marketing and social media advice for food and drink entrepreneurs. I spent over 15 years in the corporate world working in food and drink businesses in marketing for companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi Co, AB WorldFoods, Muller and Marston's Brewery, to name a few. And then I had a career break, and then I transitioned into starting up my own business as a freelance consultant. So I now work with business and do work mainly strategy, coaching, or training.
Incredible. And you mentioned influencer marketing when we were chatting just before we started recording. So influencer marketing, is it as big today as it was, and how does that impact food and drink?
Well, in terms of influencer marketing, it's quite a key part of social media strategy when you're doing it, particularly in an organic way, because it's a great way to get in front of a wider audience than you would typically get if you just talk to your own audience. So that's the importance of influencer and why it's quite a key part of social media strategy if you're doing it properly.
And you mentioned organic social media as an organic social media influencer strategy. I've never really heard of that phrase before. So how would you even start to build an organic social media influencer strategy?
Yeah, so when I say organic, I'm saying that in the sense of like you don't have to pay for it, because obviously you can work with any influencer or any partnership or whatever if you pay for it. But there are ways in social media, it's like you organically post if you don't pay for ads. It's just the same idea, but working with an influencer. But obviously you can't just work with any influencer doing this. You have to take the right approach to it. And there's a sort of a process involved in that. I mean, to begin with, you've got to be clear on who your target audience is. And then you've got to find influencers that speak to that target audience or have that target audience. Then you need to sort of actually find them. And then you need to build what we call an organic relationship with them, which is something that you build up over time once you've identified the actual influencers you want to work with. And when I say that, building up a relationship is you start off by liking and commenting and following them. And then you build on that to the point where eventually you start sharing your content with them and you mention them and things. And then the sort of final stage is you then approach them, like direct message them and go, would you like to collaborate with me? I've got some free products, or even by this stage, they may even just approach you and go, if you send me some products, I'll talk about your products. It depends on how you build up relationships. And I've worked with clients in the past where that's happened. I've sort of followed some influencers that were relevant to them. And then suddenly they started direct messaging us when I was managing their account. Going, if you send us some product, we'll feature you in one of our giveaways of the month or whatever they're doing. They often do like giveaways and things, which is why they want product, and they'll talk about your product.
Excellent. So you don't have to always be paying then for social media influence. You can actually be very strategic in how you approach it.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you'll never be able to work with the big name celebrities because it's payment or nothing with them, and they all have agents, and it's a very contract-based social media. It's proper meetings and things outside. This sort of what I call like organic social media influencer strategy is all about building relationships within the platforms with the influencers you want to work with. And then it's probably normally a direct message like that connects you. You probably never even talk to them in person, like on a call or anything. It's just arranged over like messaging or an email potentially. And you just get an address, send the products, and that's it. And you normally have a bit more to it than that. You'll explain about your brand and some things about it so that when they talk about it, they say the right messages. But in this day and age now, the preference is not to really script it out too much, because partly that's not necessarily the style of the influencer and how they talk to their audience. So you need to bear that in mind when you're picking influencers. You want someone that speaks in a similar language to you would want them to talk about, or has the same morals or ethics or code of conduct or whatever you want to talk about, say that's relevant to your brand. You don't want to be working with someone that doesn't fit with your brand. So that's quite key, because you need to give them a bit of liberty in terms of the way they talk about your products, but just give them the knowledge that they need to be able to talk about them confidently.
Incredible. And how would you define a social media influencer today? Because is it someone that's got 500 followers? Is a follower a metric of how that is true?
There are different types of influencers. So you've got what we call like mega influencers, which have got like over 1 million followers. And they're big household names, and you'll always have to pay to work with them. Only the big brands in the world can ever work with these people. And then we've got what we call macro influencers, which are more like household names, about 100,000 to 1 million followers. Again, only bigger brands with big budgets will end up working with these. And then we get into the more interesting territory, which is what we call, the next one is micro influencers. They're usually more niche or have more specific target audience that they have. They're about 10,000 to 100,000 followers. And once you start to get into this territory, some of them will want to be paid, especially if they are the bigger end of those numbers. There's opportunities to work with some of them for free. And then you get into more areas. It's very normally a specific topic, and it's about 1,000 to 10,000 followers. And again, you can normally work with these type of people for free. And then we've got an interesting, reasonably new category called woke influencers, which is all about being ethically aware. And they're normally very purpose-driven and ethically driven businesses. And that, they want to work with those type of businesses, and it's very much on their conscious as these type of people. So what I would say is, if you are going to work with some of that, it's got to be part of what your core brand values are. And you have to have a very authentic brand that fits with that. You would never work with a woke influencer if you were not sort of walking what you walk. You've got to talk the talk, walk the walk sort of thing if you're going to work with these type of influencers, because they're normally got very particular ethical or social purpose. But they're brilliant if you have a brand that fits with those sorts of characteristics.
Wow. Amazing. And we all hear the word woke so many times. I was going to ask you what is a woke influencer. So very good. So they have really specific opinions around the environment and things like that. Is that correct, or am I off track?
Yeah, it could be environment, or it could be human rights, or it could be, whatever their purpose or mission is. They're normally it could be feminist rights, or it could be like diversity. It could be anything, but they're very purpose driven on whatever their purpose is. And obviously in food and drink, you've got a lot of, for example, we've got B Corp businesses now. You've got a lot with ethically sourced businesses, like sustainable businesses. So you'll have people that fit into those categories, that they really talk and stand for sustainability, or I don't know, zero carbon emissions, or whatever it might be. So you like align depending on what your business is and your values, or what you're standing for. You would align if you wanted to work with that type of person. But it's for very much purpose-driven brands and businesses, or socially responsible businesses, where you've got a very clear message that you'd want to work and partner with someone like that.
Incredible. And again, I'm just thinking of the real influencers, the true influencers. Did they have key elements that you should be looking for in their profile? Is it their engagement, or what are the key things you really should look out for when you're trying to find these people?
Working with or looking to work with influencers, there's a lot of things you should be sort of looking at. You need to look at obviously their followers, and also go in and check some of them, because what you don't want is if you get some influencers that are not doing it properly, they may just buy followers, and they may be like bots and things. So you do need to go in and have a look and check that even the comments that they get are like proper genuine comments, and they're not from just like bots. And you can normally tell bot accounts because they're like numbers and digits. They're not like proper people. They don't normally have a picture, so they're quite easy to spot. You also need to have a look at things that would be important to you, like how often they post, because especially what sort of content they put out. Because if you're thinking like, I want to work with them, I want them to do video, and they don't do video, you've got to know what they do. Like some of them probably specialize in Instagram TV, or just doing stories, if that's what you want. So depending on what you want, you need to make sure they cover what you're interested in. Also look at things like the engagement rate, and depending on what your goals are, like things like how many items they've sold, or click-throughs. It just sort of depends what you look at. I mean, generally it's about engagement rate and followers. And also I would also check how often they post about sponsored content, work with other brands, because equally I wouldn't pick someone that works with a different brand, like say every day of the week, because that would really dilute your collaboration with them. So be a bit careful about like how often they sponsor, like do sponsored posts or work with other brands, because you don't want someone that's doing it all the time, because otherwise their audience will just get fed up with it if they're constantly promoting other brands. So just be wary of that as well. And find out as much as you can about their demographics. I mean, if they're on Instagram or any of the platforms, they will have the data, because they can see the statistics behind their page about what their demographics are. So they should be able to give you that data if you ask them for it. They can just screenshot it if they don't have it written out. I would also, if you're going to approach them, be clear on what your goals are. Like, are you doing it for follower growth? Are you trying to build a stronger community? Do you want to generate more leads? I think have a clear goal in what you're trying to achieve. I mean, what I've found generally is most people generally tend to use influencers for more brand awareness or transactional sales, but it doesn't mean you can't, because you can product through social media now. So it's not to say you can't do that, but often it's more like at the awareness stage. But it doesn't mean you can't do transactional things. And equally, if you are going to go to the point of wanting to do transactional, like encourage that, you could offer the influencer like a referral code for their audience. So like if they buy through the post that they share, they get 20% off, or a promo, or whatever discount it is, if they then buy. So you can actually create something like that. So there is actually an incentive for them to try and encourage people to buy the product as well.
Incredible. And you've probably often found, I know, I can imagine, so many companies are coming to you and looking for advice, but they don't have much of a budget to invest in social media or marketing. Is there a way that you would really push people or companies to try and engage with social media influencers if they don't have a budget? You'd mentioned earlier about maybe the products. Is that a really good way to try and engage a bit of a barter?
Yeah, generally the best way to work with them is giving them some free product. Now, depending on what they do, I mean, a lot of them do give away hampers or giveaways each month. So providing them some products for that. Sometimes it may be best to give them more than just your product. So you might give a whole sort of package of product giveaway. Or, if you're a brand that runs events, you might give them tickets as well to something if you collaborate with some other partners as part of your brand and what you do. So, if you can package something wider that's quite appealing to their target audience, and it's something that there's going to be a lot of interest in, then I think the more you can do something like that, the better. So yeah, say you sponsor a football team, or you sponsored like a local event that could be relevant to their audience. Then if you had tickets for that or something like that, or it was a food and drink show, or tickets to a restaurant that you collaborate with, whatever it is, I think something like that's quite a nice thing to do as well.
Incredible. And is it important then that small businesses are actually engaging and using influencers in their social media strategy? Again, I'm just thinking there's so many things out there that businesses can be doing, but would you say that using influencers is a really good thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely on social media. I mean, social media really in this day and age, everyone should be doing it. And I accept that it's quite hard to do particularly if you're just starting out and you don't have the resource to do it. But if you can start working with influencers, the real benefit is expanding your organic reach, especially if you're not paying for ads, because you will only reach so many people when your audience is a certain size, because you obviously use things like hashtags to expand your reach beyond your immediate audience that follow you. But that sort of only still goes so far. To take that to the next level, you really need to work with influencers, because obviously then you tap into their audience. And that's the whole benefit of working with them. And also they've got a lot of credibility, because the reasons people work with influencers is about trust and what we call amplification, which is their reach. And it's the whole trust factor, because I've got a slide that shows that only 4% of consumers trust ads, only 42% trust a brand, but 72% of consumers will trust recommendations from other consumers online. And then you always know that most consumers will trust recommendations from family and friends, like 82%. So you can see the importance that actually influencers are more important to a brand than actually just the brand talking about itself. It just takes it to the next level. It's like an endorsement, really, for your brand.
Incredible. Excellent. You've sold me on the influencers now. So I'm wondering, you touched on it earlier as well. You were saying about reaching out and building a relationship with an influencer. Then, so that is the key. Then it really is finding the right influencers and then trying to build a relationship with them. And if so, What's the? I'm sure you've done it loads. What's the tips and advice, the secret sauce to try and build a really genuine relationship?
The top tips I'd say is, first of all, make sure your values and ethics and everything are aligned with theirs, and you'll have to read about that to find out that. And you should be able to tell by what they post and things. And then, as I said, check through all the tips we talked about earlier, like about their followers, engagement rate, what they post about, what formats they use, to check it's aligned with what you're expecting. Find out, as I said, about the demographics of their audience, which you can ask them about, because you won't obviously be able to see that from their profile. Be clear on your goals and what you're wanting to achieve with them. And then what a good idea is, when you know that you're going to be able to work with them, like give them a brief on what your key messages are and things. And then also, I think a really nice thing to do as well is create a branded hashtag that you use with them, because then the hashtag will then be searchable and it's connected with that influencer, particularly if you're going to work with them on a lot of time. Because again, with influencers, you can either just work as a one-off and they just do a one-off giveaway, or you can weeks or do more like an ambassador role relationship with them. So it sort of depends like what you want to get out of it. And maybe you test the water first and just do one or two things and just see how it goes, and then see longer term whether they want to work with you on a longer basis. I mean, I'm a bit like that because I'm an ambassador for a food entrepreneurs community. So I'm like an ambassador for them. So I'm sort of doing it the reverse way. But so it's quite a good way of working with someone on a longer term basis.
Incredible. And do you think influencer marketing then is going to continue to grow? Is it something that we really should be watching out for the next couple of years, or is it plateaued where it is today?
No, I think it's going to keep growing. But I think we've seen some changes since the whole COVID came about, because there was a bit of a downturn at the beginning because people didn't really know what was going on. So a lot of the influencers stopped posting and things were put on hold with brands. But what we've seen now is there's more of a focus on like the brand values and what the brand stands for, like the purpose and everything, more than just, as I said, like transactional, just like hardcore selling of people's products. And what we've also seen is a lot more FMCG brands have introduced influencer marketing into their core strategy, as opposed to it just being a sideline strategy. And I think the main reason being is because of, since the whole COVID thing, a lot more people are online and on social media. So they've realized, actually, we need to take this more seriously and make influencer marketing a key part of our marketing strategy, while we can't use maybe some of the other channels we normally would be using for, especially big brands.
Incredible. And it's really interesting to see so many companies then getting involved and engaging in it. It's making it part of their core strategy. So that's interesting. So for sure that we all should be setting up and taking note and seeing how we implement this in. And again, really interesting to hear that it can be very cost effective if we're really smart and strategic in what we do. So you obviously, you mentioned again, and obviously we're talking about food and drink today. So you help brands in the food and drink sector. How do you help them, or what you help them with their strategies and their social media?
I mainly, I don't really take on people's social media and do it on a day-to-day basis. I do more of the strategy side. So I'll work with a company if they've started on social media and it's not really going very well, or they're not really sure what they could do to improve. Then that's how I work with people, to like help them optimize what they're doing or suggest better ways of doing things. But I don't do all the implementation. And equally, I do training courses as well on social media. So it's more helping people to help themselves, or if they've got a marketer in their department that needs some more upskilling on social media, then obviously I can do that as well.
Brilliant. I guess there's probably a better investment and more value to the company actually investing in their skills and their in-house capabilities than farming it out. So no, I can see why it would be so valuable. So no, again, thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate it. It's been really interesting to find out how influencer marketing can work for a business. If anyone's watching this, what's the best way for them to find out more or even get in contact with you? Where should we send them?
Visit my website, which is marketingstrategiser.com, which is spelled with an S. Or you can find me on LinkedIn under Sascha Dutta. I'm also on Instagram under Marketing Strategiser as well, so @Marketing Strategiser.
Amazing, excellent. Well, thank you for that. What we'll do is we'll make sure, so anyone watching this video, please do click below and you'll find the links for the site, the website and the social media profiles. So please do connect and say hello. So again, thank you very much for your time today. That was brilliant, a real good insight into influencer marketing now. So I'm looking forward to seeing some interesting giveaways and campaigns being started here across Ireland and the UK from this webinar. So again, thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me along.
Brilliant. Excellent. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, why not share this video with your friends and connections on social media? And we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you again.